Greetings, it is I once again, Lord Star Soldier the First, back here with another audio-visual representation. I am your host for another episode program in the Turbo Tuesday lineage. And in this week's episode, sadly I have a very stressing tale for you today, because even though I'm very wealthy and rich, sadly I still face prejudice every day of my life. It is quite painful to hear. So do brace yourself. It was a rough day at the country club. I was feeling slightly peckish and I wanted something to quench my hunger. And I told Jeeves, my butler, to drive into this fine establishment. This establishment is well known on the stock market for having a huge industry around the world. I figured I'll try out one of their fine products right now. Especially since this particular item catered to my demographic. So I pull up into this fine establishment, and sadly my limo was so big it couldn't fit through the drive-thru. Most distressing. And if that wasn't bad enough, I had to park over to the side like a commoner. I had to enter the establishment myself, and the children reeked. But I was valiant in my mission, and I wanted that new sandwich that they've been pressing on. And I went up to the front counter and asked the fine lady, "Why, hello, fine lady. I would like one of your fine arch deluxe sandwiches, if you please." And then she told me the most distressing news that the arch deluxe has been discontinued. Oh, I was ready to faint. I was so verklempt. Such a horrifying story, and I do not wish to repeat it again. But it is true. If that wasn't bad enough, my beloved Turbografx-16 system, which I'd like to talk about every week, has sadly been snubbed by the gaming press. Yeah, here on my HD computer screen, I got the most distressing news. Here on the PCFX forum, the people over at the Smithsonian has the gall to snub the Turbografx-16. What perplexes Star Soldier the First about this snub on this website is that it was from the fine people at the Smithsonian themselves. I, Star Soldier the First, have a degree in design and visual arts right here on my wall. Something I am very proud of. I remember getting top marks in visual arts for my particular class. I am also the artist for the game Insanity X, right here on the Xbox 360. Look at that, I got various comments as well, and I thank you. Insanity X on the Xbox 360. Be sure to get yours today. Look at this article. There's a lot of great content in here. Unfortunately, it's just a popularity contest. But still, it is a fun article, but it needs more content. As you can see in the bit wars here, why not include the glory that is the Turbografx-16? SimCity beat out AtRacer. Preposterous! AtRacer is simply a gem. That's outrageous. Simply outrageous. And look at all this empty space here. We could have put it in the Atari Lynx. Maybe even the Atari Jaguar. So many great systems that were excluded. The Neo Geo. Now that is another fun system for collectors like me. But alas, it is not here. But let's focus on the most glaring omission, the Turbografx-16. My. But don't worry, people at the Art of Video Games. I will atone for your mistakes and introduce you, my adoring public, my 12 choices for the top and the various trends that they have. There are 4 categories, 3 games in each event, and a winner. I shall choose 12 right now. And yes, to the people at the Art of Video Games, you're welcome. Here is my first pick, Bont's Revenge. Now this is a fine sequel to original Bont's Adventure with all new cartoony artwork fine visual appeal, and great content. A fine example of a well put together game. And second, the legendary ads, Video Game and Computers 1989 Game of the Year, and with good reason. Great artwork, great use of color and detail not seen anywhere else at that time. But what's my favorite adventure game for Turbografx-16? Why, it is none other than Ys. Yeah, not Wise, but Ys Book 1 and 2. A very long action role-playing game that is a fun adventure for anybody who's seeking a grand game. It not only had advanced CD quality music, but also fine anime style artwork that only us connoisseurs can appreciate. 1990, it was quite the spectacle to see. But since the CD technology was so expensive, only us, most wealthy could afford them. But believe me, Smithsonian, it is a great game. It's the action series. Here we have ninja spear, their sword, shurikens, bombs, and even chain and sickles. If that wasn't enough, you can even control up to 2 shadows. So you are quite dangerous if you get fully powered up. A very intense action game. And here we have the amazing Parasol Stars, the Fur game, and the Bubble trilogy. And you get new weapons like the ability to use umbrellas like a defensive or offensive attack. Quite ingenious if you ask me, and the visual colors of this game are quite impressive. And then we have the more mature games for the original Turbografx as well, like the Splatterhouse game. Now, it may be a bit crap. Again, it just proves that the Turbografx-16 was a more adult-oriented system, where the original Nintendo had games like Nightbound on Street and Friday the 13th, yet those games were very childish in design, where this game didn't cut around the corners. Yes, there was blood and hanging bodies in here. It didn't sugarcoat it. It was a fun M-rated title. And a series that still continues to this day, which you can find on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, for example. Now, the Turbografx-16 is also known for the target trend as well, including fine arcade translations like R-Type. The game was so good, Nintendo published the rights to this game in the arcades, but we got here a near perfect arcade port on the Turbografx-16, including all 8 wonderfully detailed stages. I remember finding a huge battleship on stage 3. It was such an amazing sight to see that on screen. The visual and design of this game is just immense. You'll be enthralled from top to bottom, but be warned, it is quite a difficult game. If you are up for the challenge, be sure to try R-Type today. And speaking of fine shooters, we have Lords of Thunder for the Turbografx Super CD. Yes, this fine game might be kind of expensive to find in a while, but is well worth tracking down. And you get 7 interesting stages throughout. And each stage has a very unique orchestral score. But what is the finest shooter for the Turbografx-16? Why, it's none other than one of the first games for the system, Blazing Lasers. A very intense action-packed game with a truly astonishing level of weaponry at your disposal. Blazing Lasers is still quite good and quite inexpensive to get, so there is no excuse not to find it. So what are the final games for the combat strategy category? There are several great games in that category for Turbografx-16 as well. Here's the rather unique pinball game Devil's Crush. Not only do you get a wider range of targets to shoot at, but the graphics itself and the main table and the different bonus stages are quite impressive. But the design of the game is so well done, you would consider it an actual pinball table in its own right. A fun game, well worth tracking down. Now, don't be fooled by its cutesy look. Bomberman is quite scientific in its design. Here, not only do you get a lot of weaponry, but each stage has its own unique design. And how can you not love Bomberman? A staple that is still going strong today. And it became popular on the Turbografx-16 thanks to its 5-player feature. Who doesn't want to get a bunch of friends over and partake in the fun game of Bomberman? It is far less damaging on your system than say a game of squash. 93, a very good year, yes. What is the best game in the strategy category for the Turbografx-16? Well, it's none other than Military Madness. Again, another series that is still going strong today. Military Madness is a game that helped popularize the turn-based strategy game here in North America. Not only did you get a ton of units at your disposal, include aircrafts, ground units, and buggies. The buggies actually remind me of a lot of the golf carts I like to use. Yeah, it's quite interesting. You also saw the different battles in stunning 3D. Each unit was particularly well known for having its own range, attack power, and even defense. Quite in depth. And you even have 32 massive levels to work with. If you can appreciate its sophisticated design, Military Madness is a fine game that deserves to be displayed in any museum. So those were some of my picks for fine visual arts for the Turbografx-16. And to the people of the American Art Museum, you're welcome. I did your job for you. But, I see it's getting late now, it's time for tea. Do appreciate the Turbografx-16 in all its glory. I have a complete Turbografx-16 license collection here, and I don't want them to diminish in value. So do be so kind as to include them in your fine museum. Alright, this is Star Soldier the First, over and out.